Let's go. Yo. Get up, nah I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Chicago Sports Podcast. This is the Final Four on Tracks, and I got my boy D-Nice in the house. He's in the low post. I'm going to be playing the point today, and we're going to take you all the way home from the Final Four to national championship game. Help you guys win some money. How you doing today, D-Nice?
Oh man, wonderful, wonderful. Excited for this Final Four, man. My team made it. You know, it wasn't really too much doubt in there, but we got through there. But I'm surprised that all four number one seeds made it, man. It doesn't usually happen like that all the time. My bracket didn't look like this, but I'm just glad my team made it through it all.
Well, I got some good news on my front. If Auburn plays Houston, I finished third in the pool with 497 entries. If if Houston beats Florida, I win the other one. So I only right now in my friends and Michael who had to miss tonight's show for school, he's in this pool with me.
Yeah.
I missed 13 picks so far in that bracket. It's the best bracket I think I've ever done in my life.
Hey man, listen. Hey, look, it's a lot of the top seeds, most of the top seeds made it through,
Yeah.
man. And it doesn't, like I said, it does not usually happen that way.
And
And people are upset. People are really upset that, we got all ones in the Final Four.
well,
Like, I understand the Cinderella
mhm.
story. Like, I get it. Everyone loves the underdog and all that. I understand it, but the best of the best is playing for the
Yeah.
title. What's better than that?
I'll tell you,
What's better than
I am
that?
super stoked for this Final Four. Not only because
Yes, sir.
not only here in every single one of my brackets, I did 8 brackets. I had 4 with Houston winning and 4 with Florida winning. My Florida brackets are done. I need Houston in order to win and to cash. So let's go Cougs! Let's get this thing. I know you're a Duke guy. I know Dustin's a Duke guy.
Yeah, man.
So I feel for you guys. I have a feeling, and we're going to get into that game. That's going to be the last game we do of the 2 here.
Yeah.
And because that to me, there's so many variables in both of these games. I'm a little nervous about Janiyah Broome, but before we get into these games, we got to talk about how do we win money at these games. Well, this is how you win
Yes,
money.
sir.
You download the Wanna Parlay app. It is tournament time, guys, and it's winding down. We only got 3 games left in the NCAA season. So download this Wanna Parlay app, WANNA. I downloaded it. Darius has downloaded it. I know a lot of guys on CSP have downloaded it. We're in there. We're shuffling, $2, $5, $10. I've been doing $10 parlays. I've been doing better on DraftKings, let's just say. But I'm going to keep giving it a try here because this Wanna Parlay app is fun because I can play Darius, I can play Tracks, I can play my boys Dustin and Brandon. Anybody who's in there, you can get on that leaderboard. You can play against each other. You can play against your best friends, your worst enemies, and try and show them who has the best knowledge out there. Once again, use the code word TRACKS for 100% deposit return. So if you put in 50, they're going to match you 50. You have $100 in that account. And again, that's $2 down. You can do bets as low as $2 on these parlays. Right now, listen to Darius and I think we're going to have a difference of opinion on some things here. So you're going to have to fade or follow one of us to try and cash in on some money. So let's get into this, Darius. We got a nice video that we're going to throw up here. It's going to highlight the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 on the road to the Final Four. and we're going to keep talking to you guys while we go through this. Darius, break down this Michigan State Auburn game for me, because I thought Michigan State looked a little sluggish, and that 3-point shooting for them finally reared its ugly head. They could not bear the 3-point bucket. And
well,
go ahead.
If you think throughout the year, Michigan State they weren't a great shooting team to begin with. Now they have some guys that can make shots, especially when they're hot. Jace
Richardson.
Yeah, Jace Richardson. He's one of those guys that when he's going, he can make shots. But as far as them being a great 3-point shooting team, they never were that. But it was just the coaching and the defense is what really got them through and what made them earn a number 2 seed. But when things get closer, and you know what I'm saying, these games you get to play these better teams, your flaws will show.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time. And unfortunately for Michigan State, one of their main flaws reared its ugly head against Auburn.
Yeah, and you called it. You called it with his name's mistaking me. The 2 last name on Auburn. God, Mazzarek. God, why is his name blowing my mind right now? But nonetheless, you called it and said this guy was going to be a difference factor in this particular ball game and getting Auburn into the Final Four. And you couldn't have been more right. This guy's an absolute stud. Here he is passing the ball down low to Janiah Broome as we speak, and won. And how scary at the end of this game was it when Janiah Broome came down on that leg and that elbow. You're thinking, oh my God, this guy played so hard, spent all season, number 1 team in the country to get here. And it looked like there for a minute, his season was over.
Yeah. Now, we already know that Janiah Broome was going into that game, a bit injured. And Baker Mazzara is the name.
Baker Mazzara, thank you.
But, we all knew that Janiah was going into this game injured a little bit already, and which it caused me it made me feel a little bit concerned for them, in the beginning. But, when I heard he was playing, then, I just felt like Auburn, they had enough of a team element to catapult their way to the Final Four.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead.
I'm sorry. A guy like Chad Baker Mazzara, he's just full of energy, man. He's all over the place. And then you throw in the fact that they had the little freshman point guard in there from New York City,
Pettiford. What a stud.
For Jersey. He's from New Jersey. I'm sorry, he's from Jersey City. But he's like, those guys are spark plugs, man.
Yeah.
And great guard play is what's going to get you where you need to be in this tournament. Great guard play and shooting are the key things outside of defense, of course. And we'll talk about that later, because the team that we're going to speak of, those 2 teams that we're going to speak about later, they specify in defense. But, those are the things that get you through this tournament. Steady guard play, man, and energy. You got to have energy and effort.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that Todd Pettiford has, for a freshman, holy shnikes, man, was he stepping it up and he doing some great things. I mean, he was looking, dare I say it, Michael Jordan-ish in some of his performances throughout this tournament. You're just not used to seeing freshmen play at this level this late in the season, but freshmen are completely changing the landscape in college basketball right now. I mean, even if you go back to the kid Libera Fillon on Alabama, I mean, these freshmen are they're not freshmen anymore. You got to play these kids; they light it up, and Pettiford is a perfect example because he was definitely a game changer. As we move on to this Houston, Tennessee, man, Houston came out balls of the wall on oh my God, they lit up Tennessee.
Listen,
this is
there's nothing you can do with guys that come out salivating at the mouth just to play defense, man.
Yeah.
And Houston has shown for the last 4 or 5 years who they are, as far as on the defensive end. They lead with that.
Yeah.
And, their shooting and the fact that they can rebound well, that's just a fringe benefit of being a part of that team. But they lead with their defense, man. They're gonna live and die with it, man.
Yeah, they had Tennessee on their heels. That perimeter defense And it's going to be very interesting as we get into this Houston Duke game in just a couple of minutes. Is that perimeter defense? Can they do that to Knopple? Can they push Knopple off the perimeter? Can they control Cooper Flag with this defense? I have a little special for this game because this game really excites me when it comes to Houston and Duke. Not only, I mean, I'm a Duke hater. I don't have to hide that. I think everybody knows that. but I mean, this is a special Duke team. These freshmen that they have in Malawach and Knopple and Flag are truly special, and it's been fun to watch. And it does seem they're playing their best ball at the right time. They've gelled very well. John Shire's done a fantastic job. But again, when you watch this Tennessee game with Houston, they were walking them off for most of the game. They kind of let it lapse there a little bit towards the end, but most of the game they were walking them off. And that was the two things I wanted to ask you about, D-Nice, was LJ Cryer in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight wasn't kind of himself, but and then Emmanuel Sharp started off really slow, but man, he closed that game out against Tennessee. I mean, he pretty much won that game and put Tennessee on his back. What are your thoughts on this Tennessee-Houston matchup?
Like when you're a player like Cryer, he leads with the jump shot as far as offense.
Yeah.
But when you're a player like him and you on a team like Houston, like I said, these guys give so much energy on the defensive end. Even the great players, they're not going to have it every week. No. But what you can do the intangibles to make yourself have more influence on the game outside of just what you do best, and that's with Cryer, and that's just shooting.
Yeah.
But I want to speak about the Blue Devils for
a
second. The Blue Devils have had an unsung hero all year long in the kid Caleb Foster.
Yeah.
Caleb Foster's from North Carolina. He's a North Carolina native, sophomore. But all year long, he hasn't had a lot of fanfare. He hasn't been talked about, in the light of Cooper Flag, Canopa, or even the young kid that comes off the bench, Isaiah Evans. Not very highly heralded, but this guy's been an X factor for the Blue Devils all year long. He's very steady. He plays a key position at point guard. He's a very steady guy. You never see him playing off script or letting a team speed him up or slow him down. He's always in control. Very composed for a sophomore. Well, I guess as a sophomore in these days of time, you kind of solidified, you know what I'm saying? Because there's so many freshmen around college basketball. But at this time of year, classifications don't mean nothing. It's all about the game, baby.
And you want to know, there was an old saying that I used to live by, because I'm used to Kansas, and Kansas is more of a development school. They usually get 1 and done and then develop players around those guys. Mm-hmm. The old saying was the best thing about a freshman is they become sophomores. That saying doesn't hold true anymore, man. These freshmen across the country are just absolutely doing their thing. And before we get out of here, I'm going to ask you about a very special player heading to Lawrence next year. Obviously, he was in the McDonald's All-American game yesterday. But I want to get your thoughts on DP in just a little bit down the road. This Florida Texas Tech game, man, this game actually screwed me, man, because I had Florida covering the 5.5. Man, it took every ounce of them, and I think I might have underestimated Texas Tech. But the one thing about Texas Tech that I did not realize was Chance McMillan was coming back in this game, and I might have had a different take on it because he's a difference maker. He was the leading one of the leading three-point shooters in the country. What a huge difference. And Grant McCaslin and the Texas Tech Red Raiders, hey, man, wreck them. They had a hell of a season. That was a hell of a performance. Florida knows how to win. They find a way to win. This team is never dead. I love the Florida Gators this year so much.
Listen, hey man, look, I for one, I owe my guy Corey McCray an apology because I didn't feel like the Gators had enough star power to get to where they are. But they've never changed who they were. You know what I'm saying? All year long, they've been this team that we watched last week, and they came with guts. It took a lot of guts for them guys to come back. In the last minute or so to come back in that game and win it. And shout out to Clayton, man. Clayton is really um grew up, you know what I'm saying, as a player.
Yes.
And I listen, I have a newfound respect for him. I always thought he was a nice player, but I do feel like that he can be a quality NBA player now. And I feel like he earned the star label by leading this Gators team all the way to one step away from the promised
Yeah, I
land.
mean, dude, was he not cold-blooded at the end of that game, dude? He dribbled that
Man,
ball around. He
man.
comes back. He looked like he was going to drive it. Stops, turns around, goes to the three-point line. Dude. He's been very impressive. He's been very impressive this year.
And it's something, listen, all right, forget the rankings, forget the number one in front of all these guys' name, right? All these schools' name. Forget the number ones, but it's something that's said for a team that plays for one
Yeah.
another. And
Yes.
each one of these teams that we're seeing this weekend have that they're made up of that mold.
Hmm.
They play for one another. You can tell like one guy hits the ground, they're all running to pick him up.
Yeah.
You know, they see one guy kind of getting, you know what I'm saying, outside of himself. They going to him and talking to him, doing free throws. Like it's just like that's an intangible that no matter NIL money can't buy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, guys that want to strap up and play for one another is very priceless, man.
Yeah, and I said this at the beginning of this tournament, and if we go back to the tape, I said Florida. I said a message to any team that plays Florida in this NCAA tournament: they're almost impossible to guard. They cut well. They have constant motion. Even when the offensive stalls, you got to really keep your head on the swivel because they know how to back cut. I mean, this team is really, really good from all aspects. Hauk, Condon, Clayton, Richard. I mean, these guys it's a perfect example too. Florida with getting Clayton and Richard out of the transfer portal, finding a couple of those
Hmm.
pieces that just make it work and get you over that hump. Because if you go back to the preseason rankings, Florida wasn't even a top 25 team in the country, and they're
Nope.
sitting here now,
Nope.
one step away from playing for all the marbles in the national championship game. So
Like I said, man, I knocked them. I knocked them myself, not because they wasn't a good team. It's just that when it comes down to basketball, regardless of the level, it comes down to your
yeah.
stars. You know, and I kind of shortchanged Walter Clayton. And again, I apologize. You know what I'm saying? I apologize to those guys, and shout out to Florida and shout out to Coach McCray, man. Listen, I believe that guy's headed for a head coaching job if he wants it. I think he'll have one available for him pretty soon.
Well, we're gonna get into this, so we don't take up people's time too much tonight. But we really appreciate everyone spending a few minutes with us. We're trying to win y'all some money, break the bank, maybe pay your mortgage. I don't know. Let's see what we can do for. Let's see what we can do for him. So this first matchup in the Final Four, as we take a trip down to the Alamo in San Antonio. This will be kicking off at 5:09. It's Auburn versus Florida back on this February 8th down in Auburn. The Florida Gators upended the Auburn Tigers by 8 points, I believe it was 90. Where was that? It was 90 to 81. So it was an 8 point victory, 9 point victory, excuse me. Auburn's path to the Final Four. They finished the season 32-5, number one seed in the South. They started by beating Alabama State, followed by Creighton, which was a pretty fantastic ball game there for a little while. They went on and
Hmm.
played Michigan. Michigan, another fantastic ball game. And obviously, Michigan State last week gave them everything they can handle. Florida, 34-4, also the number one seed in the West. Their path is very similar. Number 16, Norfolk State. They had one hell of a contest against Connecticut, another hell of a contest against Maryland, Texas
Yeah,
Tech, and then followed by obviously that gem on the highlight reel that you just saw. Um,
yeah,
a little side note here. This is the first time in SEC history that two SEC teams will match up in the Final Four in the NCAA tournament. So we are witnessing history. The two top players, as we touched, are Janiah Broome. He's averaging 17 points, 13 rebounds, an assist, and a block shot per game. And the leading scorer and player is Walter Clayton Jr., averaging 22 points in this tournament. 45% from three. He's averaging 3 and 3 rebounds a game. I'm just going to break this down really quick and then get your thoughts here. I think Florida's depth and shooting ability, especially from beyond the arc, is going to give them a big edge in this matchup. When they played in Auburn and Auburn's home court, they hit 13 three-pointers. That was kind of a statement game that put Florida on the map, even after they dusted Tennessee by like 40 in Gainesville. So Auburn's defense can be solid, but Florida's backcourt is executing, knocking down shots, man. They'll stretch Auburn's defense and create a lot of openings. What are your thoughts as on this matchup? And I'll give you some more after I hear from you. What are your thoughts? Auburn and Florida, the first time ever two SEC teams meet up in a Final Four.
Yeah, this is gonna be a slugfest. I think more than anything, Auburn has some guys. Now they scored 81 points. It was 90-81, like you said. Auburn scored 81 points, but they didn't really play well.
Yeah.
They didn't play well. They rebounded pretty decent, but they just gave up too much. They gave up too many second chance points in key times. Alex Condon was a huge key to the win for Florida. I mean, we all now know who Walker Clay Jr. is. And he, 50% from three. He had 19 points and 9 assists. And they had 12 turnovers as a team, but one thing they shot, you might as well say 40% from three.
Yeah.
Hey, college basketball, that's pretty
tough to beat.
Yeah. And a lot of those threes came from offensive rebounds. Now they tell you when you play basketball, and they even show if you play NBA 2K, if you get an offensive rebound and you kick it out for the three, the chance of that three going in, the percentage goes up twice as high. And down the stretch of that game versus Florida, that's what was happening. They need a game out of Denver Jones. Like Denver Jones, outside of Baker Mazar, Denver Jones is kind of like the glue to these guys. He's one of these guys. He's a do everything type of guy. He can shoot, he can pass, he can rebound. But against Florida, he didn't play well. I can't even attribute it to foul trouble. It's just like a non-factor. He had 2 points, but he tried to have an impact on the game by rebounding. But they needed points from him. Florida can score with anybody. Yeah, and if you come in there having a bad game, it's not going to be good for
you. For me, I think Florida's backcourt is going to have the huge edge here. And in that game that they played on back in February, another guy, key contributor, almost missed a double-double by 1 rebound was David Houck. And the mullet man has been coming through for these guys. He can play in the low post. He can take it to the 10. He can get out. He can pick and pop. And they like to set him up and run some offense through him. He finished that game in Auburn with 16 and 9. So I think, with players who are comfortable handling the ball and making plays and creating for one another, that's Florida's offense to a T. I think Auburn's going to have a little bit of trouble with the depth, and depth is going to be a huge factor because Florida can just wear teams down, keep fresh legs on the floor, which is always important, especially in like what you just said, a slugfest. It's going to be a high-intensity game. And I think Florida will continue to do what they do. They'll rotate their players in, and they'll keep them fresh. I think they wear down Auburn. I'm going to take them in the 2-game sweep. I'm taking Florida, minus the 2.5 to get past Auburn and move on to Monday. I don't want to sell Auburn short. I do think they have a lot of firepower offensively. But again, I think if the defense of Florida can lock them down, wear them down a little bit, and I think that's going to ultimately be the factor. I'm taking Florida minus the 2.5. Florida's moving on to Monday. Who you got, D?
I can't go against you, man, and especially with Janai Broom's health in question.
That's another big
I'm
factor.
pretty sure he's gonna strap up and play. I would think differently of him if he didn't. But the style of play that Florida brings, because they don't look physical, but they play with an edge. They play with a chip on their shoulders. and it's going to get physical out there. Now he had 18 and 11, 6 assists, versus Florida the last time they played. But he's going to have to bump that thing up to at least 25 and 14 for them to have a real for him to have a real impact on this game. This is gonna be like, for you bettors out there, for you guys that's gonna bet on this game. I think the total points to be right up your alley.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a slugfest,
Yeah,
man.
and I'm actually on the wrong game. I was like, it's 136, but that's Houston Duke. I was like, that's really low for this game. It's at 159.5 with the hook. I'm not an over under guy. I'm more like the spread. You know, I I'm gonna take, as I said, I'm taking Florida -2.5. They're moving on to Monday. You like the over? You like the over 159.5?
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, ah, yeah, ah, yeah. I mean, it's not supposed to be that way. But these guys are familiar with one another, man, and they understand the strengths and weaknesses. And it ain't gonna get all the way down. It's not gonna get all the way to this game for it to
Yeah.
change. You see what I'm saying?
Very
So
very
yeah,
similar scoring to their February matchup.
yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, this is gonna lead. We got Dustin in the chat, and we know he's a Dookie. And we got my boy D Nice. He's a Dookie. I'm outnumbered here. I'm outnumbered here, boys. um, as we get into this, Duke finished the season 35-3, the number one seed in the East. Their path to the Final Four. They beat number 16 Mount St. Mary's. Actually demolished them. Baylor gave them everything they can handle. Outscored them 100-93. Arizona was another really tough matchup for them. That was a wonderful game for a little while. Duke eventually pulled away. And then the
Hmm.
path to the Final Four for Houston started with SIU Edwardsville. They had a very tough matchup with Gonzaga, a very entertaining game for a little while there with Purdue, and kind of blew the doors off Tennessee. Never was really a matchup. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, and I want to, and I say this. This is the two really quick. The two top players in this game are Cooper Flag, averaging 19 points. He's shooting 42% from three, averaging 8 rebounds a game, 5.3 assists, and 2 blocks. You have LJ Carrier on the other side, who touched on a little bit, struggled in the
Mhm.
Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. He's averaging 17 points. He's shooting 40% from three, four assists per game, 3 rebounds a game, and he's averaging a steal and a half. My X factor in this, and first off, this is grown men of Houston versus the Wonder Kids of Duke. That's what I'll say here. I mean, ultimately,
Well said. Well
it,
said. Well
it's the
said.
utopia of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. You know what I mean? Like, this game has
Yeah.
so much stuff in it that goes. My X factor, if Houston's to pull the upset, is the guy when we first did our show, when we started at 64 and we got all the way down to 4, is Milos Uzan. He had a huge
Yes.
game,
Usman, yeah.
22 points, 6 3-pointers, 6 assists against Purdue. Had another solid game in his last performance. He's averaging 15 points, 6 steals, 3 rebounds, 51% from the field, and Darius 69.2% in this tournament from 3. Unbelievable how Uzan
Yeah.
has been this amazing in this tournament.
Yeah.
Him and Cryer, for them to have a chance to beat Duke, are going to have to play lights out. A little tidbit. I'm going to let you take this away before I get into what I think about this game. Just one nugget that I
Mhm.
found: 7 of the previous 8 teams that have played in their home state have went to the Final Four. In the Final Four, excuse me, have won. So there's only one team that has lost. Houston is 3 hours from San Antonio, so it's basically going to be a home game.
Yeah.
And this will be Houston's 9th team in the last 60 years to play in a final. Houston, excuse me, will be the 9th team in the last 60 years to play a Final Four game in their home state. So I'm going to turn this over to you. We have a very similar structure, but a few key differences that could shift the dynamic of this game. Duke's defense has been impressive. I mean, obviously holding Bama down to 65 points. I want to get your take. What are you thinking here, Darius? You got your boys moving on? I'm sure you do.
Oh man, One thing I do believe, and fellas, regardless of what she tells you, size matters.
Yeah.
And listen, Houston played Auburn earlier this season and fell
Mm-hmm.
short because Auburn had the size. Size matters, ladies and gentlemen. Janai Broom, 20-9 versus them. You know, they struggled from the field. Now it's another guy you didn't mention from Houston. I'm gonna mention him for you. Now, Uzan, as far as a glue guy, hey, X factor for
Yeah.
sure. But another guy that's been in Houston for a while, and that's Emmanuel
Oh,
Sharp.
yeah.
Listen, Emmanuel Sharp and Crier, those two guys have been holding it down for Coach Sampson, you know, for a while now. And, you know, they've been holding things down, but they didn't play well against
Yeah.
Auburn because of
Mm-hmm.
size. Now, Sharp, you know, he was a little better from three than Crier
Yeah.
was, but you know, the rebounding matters. And listen, Jawan Roberts, he's a hustler, very scrappy guy. He's gonna try to muck
Yes, he
things up,
is.
but it's gonna be tough because he's gonna have to fight all night. I'm pretty sure he's in excellent condition because of the way they play defense. But it's gonna be too much. It's gonna be too much. It's gonna be too much. I can't even name a percent that Houston has to shoot to win.
Ooh.
Now I listen. I can't name it. Now I not only can I name it. I don't think they'll get there. You know, Duke is long up top, long at the bottom. Pause. And I just think when you're a guard, you guard like Emmanuel Sharp and Crier, playing against length is
Yeah.
difficult. It's difficult. Even your best guards, when you play against length, it's difficult. They have to make the adjustment. These guys are they're not creators. You know, they rely a lot on ball movement to get the open shot, you know, which is great. But when you got big guys that's at the top of the key, you know, contesting your shot, you have to change it. You know, and it's gonna be difficult for them. You know, I just don't see no way. Houston plays with a lot of heart, and I think they're gonna leave it all
Oh,
out on
yeah.
the floor. But I just don't see no way they beat Duke. Now, the great thing for Houston being that they're playing, you know, pretty much a home game, is that the drive won't be long to get home.
I saw them. I saw them today. They're on their campus. They're practicing in their facility. The Houston Cougars. I watched some practice film earlier today. So they are enjoying some home cooked meals while Duke is
Mhm.
in a hotel in San Antonio. So
And another thing I want to touch on. Listen, throughout the year, you know, you got your home games. You may, if you top 25 team, you may play a number of those neutral site
yeah,
games. I'm always interested in the record of teams in neutral sites. You know, because when you're playing at home, you know, it's just a totally different
yeah,
feel. You know, when you go to a neutral site and you have to play, it's a sense of, you know, awkwardness that comes with that. And only real good teams can succeed in neutral site games.
yeah.
Now, not saying that Houston is not one of them, but it makes a
Well, I will.
difference. Sometimes being close to home could play
And
against
I
you.
will tell you this: Houston has not lost a road game. I don't believe they've lost a road game this year. They've only lost one, and
Mhm.
it was the Texas Tech in overtime. And I don't believe that. Well, that might have been a road game. I thought they said they didn't lose a road game. I may have to double check on that. They've been really good everywhere. Let's just say
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So, here for me, I think Duke's offense is very versatile. We've had that. They have the ability to break down tough defenses like Houston's. the way Duke balances both ends of the floor, their offense just may be able to outlast Houston's defense, especially considering Duke's top tier scoring and efficiency. They are very efficient. Nobody on this team, I believe, is shorter than 6'6", if I'm not mistaken. So like you were
Yeah.
saying, they have a lot of length. Duke's offense could be equipped to exploit Houston's defensive schemes compared to some other teams with their well-rounded attack. They like to mix up styles as well when they're out there, and if they can hit outside shots and then kind of transform that to pushing the tempo and kind of get the ball inside to Malawatch down low. With all that being said, I still think Houston's defense is stout. If they can chase them off that 3-point line, if they can bother Knoppel enough, maybe Cooper Flagg enough on that outside perimeter like they did to Tennessee, because they ran Tennessee off that line, and Tennessee started, like 1 for 15 from 3-point land? I mean, their perimeter defense in that game was just absolutely amazing. So if Duke struggles to find some clean looks or doesn't match Houston's intensity in this game, I still think it could be tight. But overall, I think Duke has a complete game in offense and defense, and I think it puts them in a great position to advance. Okay? So, generally speaking, teams loaded with one-and-done players don't win national championships. Recent teams, we had Kentucky in 2012, and we had Duke in 2015. So can they be the outlier to run the table again with Flagg, Knoppel, Malawatch, and Isaiah Evans? The first three being projected lottery picks. So I'm gonna say this, people. This is one of those fade or follow moments. I'm gonna stick because I said it when the tournament started. I said I said it was gonna be Florida and Houston in the national championship game. I have it in every single one of my 8 brackets that I did. It's just a matter of who I had winning. I'm going to take Kelvin Sampson and the Houston Cougars, and I will let you know this. The minute that line came out, I put money on Houston on the money line. It's went up. I got them at plus 170. I believe the last time I looked at it, they were plus 200. So they were 2-1. Now Duke's 2-1 to win this thing against Houston. I'm not going to say it's a very smart bet to take Duke or take Houston on the money line. There's a lot of factors here that point in Duke's direction. The one thing that I love about Calvin Sampson is the way he has his teams together. They play as a unit. Houston, as I stated when we first started this, is the only team that brings you down to their level and mucks you up and makes you play their kind of basketball. I don't know if they can do that to Duke. I think they're going to give it a shot. And
got to.
Yeah, if they can run them off that perimeter, and Malawatch is a problem because I think the bigs, Tugler, Francis, and Jawan Roberts, I think none of them are over 6'8". So I think Roberts is the tallest, but Tugler was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. He doesn't score. He's not efficient around the basket, but I expect Tugler to be on the hip of Malawatch this entire game. That's going to be a huge matchup. Hopefully, Tugler, for my betting purposes, does not fall into foul trouble, because I think if he fell in foul trouble against Tennessee and they had to bring in Francis, I think Malawatch will absolutely eat Francis alive, and I think Javari Francis is a very good player. I just don't think he's very close to Malawatch.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. That's a tough task. That's a big tree to climb, man. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, pointing out to Dustin here, Dustin, you knew I was going to pick Houston. It's not because I don't like Duke. I'm going to tell you, I picked it. So I picked it 3 weeks ago. I have to stick with my pick. I just said I don't know if it's the smartest bet in the world. You'd probably be better off taking Duke to cover the 5.5 would be my guess. But I did take the money line, and I'm going to leave it at that. I really like Calvin Sampson. I think this is something that he really needs. Unfortunately, he is playing a sensational Duke basketball team. This could be historic as well, because Auburn, this is its second trip to the Final Four. They've never won a national championship. This is Houston's sixth trip. They've never won a national championship. They have lost in 2 title games. So cutting down the nets for Bruce Pearl or Calvin Sampson, 2 of the most respected coaches in college basketball, would be a crowning achievement. It's not going to go without a ton of work. So if I'm going in my picks where I have Florida and Houston going to the national championship game, I'm going to take Florida, or I'm going to take Houston to muck that game up again and take Houston, say, let's go Cougs to win the national championship, represent the Big 12 proudly. Let's put the Big 12 on your back and get Calvin Sampson that first national championship. And just like I said, smart bettors, take Duke minus 5.5. I will come back next week and laugh at y'all if Houston wins.
Hey man, I'm damn sure gonna take that 5, and I'm gonna take Duke with that 5.5.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna win at least by 11.
Yeah.
But
Here, you know what?
there's a name. There's a guy that hasn't been getting a lot of minutes throughout the tournament for the Blue Devils, and when you're playing in these games, you've shown everyone in the college basketball world who you are and what you can do. But at some point, you got to show them something different.
Yeah.
I think this is a game when Isaiah Evans comes in and makes a very big impact. On this game right here, this game that's leading up to the title
Yeah.
game. We haven't seen a whole lot of them all tournament long, but I think this is the game. This would be a great game for him to come in and show what he can do from the as far as his shooting, because his shooting is going to be key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is going to be. I think these games are going to be fun, and I think at least to start, the one thing that scares me about Houston the most is sometimes their defense keeps them in games because their offense sputters and they struggle, which is really crazy with Uzan, Sharp, and Cryer on the perimeter. But this has happened to them throughout the tournament. It happened last week against Tennessee. In the second half of that game, they really struggled to start scoring points until Sharp caught fire towards the end and started banging those threes. Cryer just looked off in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Here, and I'll put it this way, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me on this, Darius. If Houston's to pull this upset, they're going to have to play a perfect game. They're going to have to play a perfect game.
Yeah, pretty much. And your main guys have to know that they're the main guys. See, when you have a team built off a team, it's a great thing. But in games like this, we have to know who we can lean on. We have to know who the star is. Like we can't go through this whole thing with the by committee attitude.
Right.
We have to have a guy that we can lean on in critical times. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to listen, we've been at this for a long time, fellas. You know what I'm saying? We got to know who the guy is. Because that guy, we're going to do our part as a team, but that guy is going to have to be the guy that's going to get us over the top. That's what superstars do.
And unfortunately, Duke probably has the best player on the court for all 4 teams in Cooper Flagg. Dead balls #1 pick in the NBA draft. He's been phenomenal in this tournament. He has not disappointed, and it looks like, and honestly, the last 2 games, it looks like he's ratcheted it up a tad.
Yeah, I think Coach Shire's letting him go.
You know what, Darius?
Because
I'll tell you this, and this is the one thing that really impressed me about Cooper Flagg, and I believe it was in the last game. He did something on the court that Shire didn't like, and Shire was yelling at him. And he goes, it was something with his feet. He said, your feet, your feet, your feet. He looked right at him and said, sorry, coach, and nodded. That's something that a guy of his stature doesn't have to do, because this guy's had 1 foot out the door since he stepped on the campus.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm pretty impressed with him. I was impressed with him when he played with the Team USA, and he was, dunking on LeBron James and doing low post moves against some of the best basketball players in the country. I mean, I don't know. Houston's defense is impressive. It's impressed me, and like I said, if you watch them all season, which I have because I'm a Big 12 guy, I don't think I've missed any of their
Mhm.
games. They bring you
Yeah.
down to their level and say, hey, this is the way we're going to play. You're going to play that way. I don't know if they can do that to Cooper Flag. They need Cooper Flag to, let's say, have an off game. Let's say he needs to have an off game, and he's going to come in amped up and ready to cut down those nets. So,
Yeah. Now, the great thing about this Duke team, we all know who Cooper Flag is, great player, but Duke is not Cooper Flag reliant.
no, no.
You know, now what's gonna happen with the decision that Kelvin Sampson's gonna have to make? I mean, because he's gonna dance with the girl he brought to the
Yeah, he
party,
is.
right? We know that you got to at this point. You have to, but he's not gonna be so stubborn that Cooper Flag's not gonna get double teamed.
No.
I refuse to believe that.
And
I
if
refuse
he
to
gets
believe
double
that.
teamed, then you got to do it with Knipple or Proctor or one of these other guys that can lace it from the perimeter. It's going to be very interesting. For me, because Calvin Sampson's a smart coach, I would not be surprised if you see some zone defense with the defenders that they have against Duke to try and give Duke a different look and something they haven't seen. I've watched a lot of Duke games. I don't know that Duke's played the zone that often, but Calvin Sampson's a great coach. He's going to draw up something,
Yeah,
and I mean, again, it's David versus Goliath, dude. It truly is, and kind of like I said at the beginning here, it's you know, Houston's grown men versus the Wonder Kids, man. It truly
yeah,
is. The unstoppable force versus the immovable object. Um, and it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Saturday night is a blessing for all of us. I got picked on a little bit because I had all four number ones in the Final Four, and that's why I'm in this thing right now. But guess what, guys? I'm trying to win
Mhm.
money. You have to recognize the teams that are the best. These four teams have been the
Yeah.
best four teams all season long, with some other
Season
teams on the
long, yeah.
borderline. But these four teams have set
Hmm.
themselves apart since November. So we're
Yeah.
getting what we want for the last three basketball games of the year. It's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait. I already have my spot reserved at 102 North River Street at River Street Tavern. We have about seven guys. We're getting together. We're going to be doing strip cards, watching basketball. I cannot wait for this Saturday. I am so stoked for these basketball games. I hope they live up to everything we think they can be.
Yeah, man. Listen, one thing about each one of these teams, they earn their spot to get to where
Yeah.
they are. You know what I mean? No shortcuts. They balls to the wall all season long. You didn't see any inconsistencies from these guys. You seen guys with the mindset and their coach with the, you know what I'm saying, with the mindset of title or bust. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like I said, we're gonna take away the rankings for a hot second, and we just gonna delve into what these teams are, what they're made of, what the foundation of each one of these teams is. You know, and now three, three of the teams have great players.
Hmm.
Houston is one player doesn't stand out more than the
Agree.
other. It just depends on the
I
day
agree.
with them. You know what I
I
mean?
agree.
So, they can come in with the chip on their shoulder and look at themselves just to give themselves a psychological advantage, give themselves a psychological advantage and say, listen, we're the underdogs. Nobody's cheering for us. Now, the Duke faithful, that fan base
Yes.
travels. We travel, we go wherever. So we can, you know what I'm saying? That's even though it's in Texas, that stadium can sound a little
Oh, I
different.
think
You know what I
so. I think it
mean?
will.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's going to be imperative that Houston comes in focused and with the mindset of us against the
Yeah.
world. And like you said, they're going to have to play the
Yeah.
perfect game. And I hate to say that for a team with the number one seed, that's the number one seed, and that's been consistently in this position for the last maybe 2, 3 years
Yeah. Yeah.
per se. But they're going to have to play the perfect game again because Duke can play any style of basketball you want
Yeah,
to play,
and that's
and they're not reliant on one
and
guy.
that's what's huge, man. That's a huge
Hmm.
difference in this, because even when Houston tries to get them to play that way, they're going to adjust, and they can. So it's going to be interesting, and we gave you guys some tidbits of what we're thinking, and you're asking, how do I make money? Where do I go? So we're going to go to the Wanna Parlay app. It is tournament time, and it is winding down, and we've taken you from 64 all the way down the floor. We've made some money and lost some money along the way, but it's this.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
this is your shot at taking a huge cash prize. It's a blast, and it's so simple to use. Download the Wanna Parlay app, WANNA Parlay app, for $2. You can bet on basketball, hockey, baseball, combat sports contests every single week. And again, it's only $2 to enter a parlay into any contest. Don't forget to use the promo code TRACKS. You get 100% reimbursement on whatever you put in. You put in 50, you get 50 back. You have $100 in there. They give you 50 free dollars to blow. What can be better than that? Turn that 50 into 200 and make them pay for giving you that free 50 bucks.
Right.
So this
I'm a,
really simple. Again, use that code word tracks, 100% deposit match up to $250. I should say that, guys. So if you put in 1,000, they're not giving you 1,000 back. So let's get that out of the way. You must be 18 or older to play. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Once again, I'm going to run through mine. I have Florida covering the 2.5 over the Auburn Tigers. I went against the grain. I am going against the grain. I am taking the Houston Cougars on the money line. Let's go Cougs. I got them at plus 170. I believe they're up to plus 200. That lets you know that there's a lot of money coming in on the other guys. Uh, and then if it were to be Duke versus Florida per se in the national championship game, I would probably at that point probably take Florida in that matchup as well, because I did once again got to stay true to my roots. I have Florida and
yeah.
Houston in the national championship game, and I've been saying one of those two teams will win this title. So I'm going to stick with those. But I do think Duke has a really good chance to play on Monday night. Um, Darius, what were your picks again before we put a bow on this thing?
Hey man. Before I get to my picks, I want to share something with my fellow betters. I have a soft spot for my fellow betters out there in my heart for you guys. Understand this. With Warner Parlay, there's a section in Warner Parlay where $10 can take you a long way. You don't have to bet your full $10 on a bet. You can bet $2 and you have a chance to win at least 500 in some of these. You just have to get in there and check it out once you get in there. Just don't go in there clicking and running crazy trying to bet. You have to be smart about this. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not as simple as it looks.
Hmm.
Vegas keeps the lights on because of losers, not winners. And all these gambling sites and apps, they come up off of losers because it's not easy. But you don't have to spit out your whole $10 on one bet. You know what I'm saying? You can take it $2 at a time. It takes you a long way. You know what I'm saying? Mix your bets up. Do two NBA, two
Mm-hmm.
baseball, two hockey. You know what I'm saying? Or you can do three of each. But your chances of winning are a lot easier if you do it that way than if you just stick to one sport.
Yeah.
So with that being said, go
No,
ahead,
I
son.
was
You got
just going to
something to say?
say, with baseball starting, those no run first inning bets. I'm not sure if they're on Wanna Parlay, but those are awesome to play. You got a dominant pitcher like
Yeah.
Skeens in there or something. Go play. Go
Hmm.
play. It's called a Nerfie. Go grab a Nerfie. No run first innings, dude. They're great bets to play.
Absolutely. I like Duke. That 4.5. I'm riding with the Blue Devils versus Houston. Now, I'm gonna roll with Florida. I think this game is gonna end up just like the last game in February did. I respect Auburn as a team. I love Coach Pearl over there. But I think it's just the pieces are the same. And these guys are coming in with that much more of intensity, because they can smell it. And I just don't think Auburn has enough to catapult the style of play that Florida likes to play. I don't think they have enough, especially with Janai Broome being injured. Um, I'm take Florida to win by at least 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
And listen, we going with the points too. This is gonna be one of them games where they're gonna put
You
it
like the
up.
over?
You know, yeah, we like the over on the points for sure. What was the total points?
159 in the hook.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
They did
oh
score
yeah, clear that.
171 in their first meeting, I believe it was. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah,
believe
it's
I'm
gonna
with you
click in.
there. I might take that over with you there, Darius.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So,
Hmm.
um, and then who you got in the national championship?
Hey man, Duke and Florida,
You
man.
got Duke cutting them down? Yeah, I
Yes,
know you would.
yes,
Hey,
yes,
if Kansas was there, I'd be doing the
yes,
same thing, man.
yes. Yes. Even though it's going to be one of those games, I think Florida and Duke is going to be one of those games where it's going to come down to, a couple of possessions at the end.
Yeah.
Because I just truly think Florida is that well coached, and they have players that play for one another.
I
Yeah.
agree. I honestly, take all the bets and everything aside, I do think Florida and Duke would be one hell of a national championship game. That would be a lot of fun, man,
Yeah.
on a Monday night. That's for sure.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Make sure you guys check out Trax will be back on here tomorrow. I want to thank Trax for putting us on. Final Four on Trax. We gave you our picks. Don't follow. You can fade me and follow Darius on that Duke pick. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm playing. I'm not playing the odds here. Uh, but I want to thank everyone for spending a little time with us on this Wednesday afternoon. Get ready for these games. Find a nice seat. Get your popcorn ready on Saturday evening. About 5:09 for the first tip of Florida and Auburn, and then obviously the nightcap will be Houston and the Duke Blue Devils from the Alamo in San Antonio. Until
Yes,
until
sir.
then, everybody, we love you. Thank you guys so much for spending a little time with us. We'll check y'all out again really soon. Bear down, everybody.
Bear down.